I had an agreement with my boyfriend that we would go to get the marriage certificate on that day, but he stood me up. I called him dozens of times and sent him over 10 text messages, yet he didn't reply to me at all. Finally, I couldn't help running to his home to look for him, but downstairs of his house, I saw him walking over from the supermarket chatting and laughing with a woman. I walked up to him and questioned him, "Who is she?" He just looked at me coldly and said, "Arya is my secretary. Today is her birthday." I clicked on the WeChat of my boyfriend's elder brother and sent a message. "I'm willing to marry you." At this moment, it felt as if someone had poured a basin of ice water over my head. 5 years of relationship, yet in his eyes, it was not even as important as his secretary's birthday. Suddenly, I remembered that his elder brother Jason had once told me, "If one day you see his true face clearly, remember to come to me." I took out my phone tremblingly and dialed Jason's number. "Jason, do the words you said still count?" Jason is Noah's half-brother. These two brothers had been in an overt and covert struggle all along because of the inheritance of the family business. And I seemed to have become another battlefield for their rivalry. "What? Has that bastard finally let you down?" There was a hint of amusement in Jason's voice. "I'm very sober now," I said, biting my lip. "If you're still willing, let's get married. I'm just handling an overseas project right now and will return to the country in half a month." He chuckled softly. "When I come back, we'll go to get the marriage certificate." "Okay, I'll wait for you." After hanging up the phone, I immediately started packing my luggage. I didn't want to stay in this home for one more minute. It was not until late at night that Noah came back. I ignored him and just focused on sorting out my own things. "Get me a pair of pajamas." He stood at the door of my bathroom and ordered me as if it were a matter of course. "I'm so exhausted today." In the past, whenever he spoke like this, I would always put down what I was doing right away to take care of him. Looking back now, I was really so silly. "Why don't you go get the pajamas?" He stuck his head out of the bathroom. "Just get that one you like the most. I'm moving out." I closed the suitcase without telling him that I was going to marry his elder brother. Only then did he notice the suitcases all over the room. "What are you making a fuss about?" Noah said dismissively. "Today is Arya's birthday. It's a once-a-year thing. You don't really take it seriously, do you? We can just get the marriage certificate another day." I sneered. So in his heart, our marriage was not as important as his secretary's birthday. In the past 5 years, I had placed myself too low, which made him used to treating me like a servant who could be ordered around at any time. From now on, I would never let anyone despise my feelings again. "Don't be so headstrong." He walked over and reached out to touch my head. "Getting the marriage certificate doesn't have to be today. We can make up for it another day." I dodged his hand, and my eyes were full of sarcasm. "Yeah, in your eyes, nothing is more important than your little secretary. Can't you see? I don't want to get the marriage certificate with you." Noah's words were firm. I stood there, feeling cold all over. Such an answer made me feel as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. We had clearly agreed to go to get the marriage certificate today, but he said such words at the last moment. I couldn't believe that these words would come out of his mouth. In my memory, he was always gentle and considerate. He would always arrive half an hour early for every date for fear of making me wait. He doted on me in every possible way. When I had a fever and was hospitalized, he stayed by my bedside day and night and didn't close his eyes for a whole week. Every time I woke up, I could see his gentle smile. He always held me in the palm of his hand and said, "You are my little princess. No one is allowed to bully you." He would even check my WeChat moments for fear that someone might have ill intentions towards me. Every time a boy gave me a like, he would be extremely jealous and insisted that I delete that person. He had to personally supervise my clothes, dressing, daily life, and everything. Even the skincare products I used were carefully selected by him. Even when I wanted to change my hairstyle, he would accompany me to the salon to choose repeatedly. At that time, he always put me first in everything and couldn't wait to present the whole world to me. Although his possessiveness was a bit overbearing, I was willing to accept it. After all, isn't such single-mindedness and care exactly what every girl expects? But now he is completely different. Where's the slightest bit of the former tenderness in his eyes? And it's time for me to let go. This relationship that had lasted for 5 years was finally coming to an end. Looking at his cold eyes, my heart was as dead as ashes but surprisingly calm. The string in the depths of my heart seemed to break completely at this moment. Since that's the case, there's no need to get the marriage certificate. I turned around and walked towards the bedroom, closing the door heavily. Leaning against the door panel, I felt that the last glimmer of hope in my heart was also extinguished. Tears fell uncontrollably, but I stubbornly refused to make a sound. "Bella, will you please listen to my explanation?" Noah's voice came through the door panel. "After so many years of relationship, don't you still understand my feelings?" "Enough. I don't want to listen." I interrupted him coldly. "I understand your feelings all too well. Isn't it that you think Arya is more suitable for you than I am?" Although he seemed to be softening on the surface, his words were full of contempt for me. For his sake, I didn't even hesitate to make my grandmother, who loved me the most, feel sad. Over the years, I had poured all my efforts into this relationship, but he turned a blind eye to it and instead showed concern for his female secretary. I bit my lip and didn't say a word, but tears kept falling down. In the past, it was always me who took the initiative to coax him. Even when he did something wrong, I had to be the first to bow my head. Today, it was probably already his limit to say these few words. Just as I was thinking, my phone suddenly vibrated. I wiped away my tears, thinking that it was a message from him to apologize. Who would have thought that when I clicked on WeChat, I saw a message that immediately made me calm down. Thank you, brother Noah, for accompanying me on my birthday today. I really like the necklace you gave me and will definitely cherish it. Immediately after that, there was another message. I'm sorry, President Bella. I didn't mean to send it to you. I sneered as I looked at the messages sent by Arya. Was it a coincidence? Or did she deliberately show it to me? Oh, what a melodramatic scene. When I first met Arya, she was just a newly graduated intern who couldn't even make a good PPT and would cry in the office every day. Later, due to a work mistake, she almost messed up an important project. She knelt at the door of my office, crying that she still had elderly parents to take care of at home and begged me to give her another chance. I softened my heart. Not only did I help her solve this matter, but I also personally took her to get familiar with the business. She also took this opportunity to get close to Noah and climbed from a small assistant to his personal secretary. I never expected that the ungrateful person I had promoted with my own hands would become the chief culprit who betrayed me. I forcibly suppressed the anger in my heart and immediately booked a plane ticket back to my hometown. The next morning, I put my resignation letter on Noah's desk. He looked at the resignation letter with his brows tightly furrowed. Please don't go, okay? It's too late. I turned around to leave, not wanting to say another word. When my hand was on the doorknob, his voice came from behind. Next Monday. I looked back at him. A hint of panic flashed in his eyes. I will definitely accompany you to get the marriage certificate next Monday. This time it was my lack of consideration. Give me one more chance. I should have flatly refused. But looking at his anxious look, those warm memories of the past flooded back into my mind. Especially last year, when my investment project failed and I almost lost everything, it was he who, regardless of the opposition from his family, used his own shares to guarantee for me and helped me get through the difficulties. Later, the project came back to life and became an exemplary investment of the year. I remembered all these little things in my heart. Next Monday, give me one more chance, okay? Noah pleaded softly again. Looking at his rare show of weakness, I suddenly thought of something. If I told him now that I had already agreed to his elder brother's proposal, I wondered what his expression would be like. I ignored his promise and went straight home. Looking at those once sweet photos on the wall, I had mixed feelings in my heart. I picked up a pair of scissors and started cutting these photos one by one. Just then, Noah, who should have been in a meeting, suddenly pushed the door open. What are you doing? Seeing that I was tearing up the photos, his face changed drastically. He rushed over to stop me, but it was already too late. Why are you doing this? Noah looked at the pieces all over the floor, his eyes turning red. His pain seemed real, but I just found it ridiculous. He could care so much about a pile of pieces of paper but didn't know how to cherish me, a living person. This scene made me couldn't help sneering. I gently stroked those photos and said in a calm tone, since your heart is not here, keeping these memories will only add to my sadness. Are you still angry about what happened that day? He stood up excitedly, raising his voice. Didn't I say? We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau next Monday. What else do you want now? In the past, whenever I saw him so excited, I would always feel flustered unconsciously. But now, listening to his roar, I was surprisingly calm instead. I looked at the photo of us under the cherry tree in my hand and said softly, after getting the marriage certificate, we can travel around the world and take the most beautiful wedding photos. The memories in these old photos have already faded. It's better to let them go with the wind. Travel photography? Noah's eyes flickered, and then he said excitedly, coincidentally, Arya said a few days ago that she wanted to go to Yunnan to see the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. Why don't we invite her to come along? His words were like a sharp knife, stabbing deeply into my heart. Sure enough, the first person he thought of was that woman. We had clearly agreed on a world for just the two of us, but he insisted on bringing an outsider along. I clenched the photo in my hand tightly, and my nails dug deeply into my palm. This is Noah, Noah who always puts others first before me. At night, Jason's deep and magnetic voice came from the other end of the phone. Baby, I specially asked the best jewelry designer in Paris to create the Star River necklace. On our wedding day, I will put it on you with my own hands. I bit my lower lip slightly, and my heart beat a little faster. What's wrong? You don't sound right. He keenly sensed my abnormality. It's nothing. Let's talk about it when you come back. I tried hard to hide the fluctuations in my heart. Okay. He was silent for a moment, and then his voice suddenly became domineering. Remember, once you put on this necklace, you will be completely mine. I know. I closed my eyes and said softly, since I've chosen you, I won't change my mind. When I hung up the phone and was about to rest, my phone rang with a notification sound again. It was an invitation to the International New Photographer competition. This competition is of great significance in the industry, and it's really rare to receive an invitation. Photography has always been my greatest passion. Every time I press the shutter to freeze a beautiful moment, it always makes my heart surge with excitement. Receiving the invitation made me so excited that I couldn't fall asleep all night, and all kinds of creative inspirations kept flashing through my mind. The next day, the doorbell rang. Unexpectedly, it was Arya who came to deliver the invitation. She was wearing a white lace dress and said in a deliberately delicate way, "Sister Bella, you're really amazing. You've even been invited to such an important photography competition. I'm so envious." I looked at her affected appearance coldly. "Give me the invitation," I said in a cold tone. She hid the invitation behind her back, with a calculating look in her eyes as they moved. "Sister Bella, I know my request is too much, but I really love photography. Since I was a child, I've always dreamed of becoming an excellent photographer. Could you?" I sneered contemptuously. "Put away your pitiful look. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" Tears instantly welled up in her eyes, and her voice was choked with sobs. "Sister Bella, we're colleagues after all. Why are you always targeting me like this? I just want a chance to prove myself." Looking at her pretentious pitiful look, I just felt sick. I reached out to grab it, but she held it tightly and wouldn't let go. During the tug-of-war, the invitation was torn in half. Arya took the opportunity to fall to the ground and let out a delicate cry of pain. Just then, Noah appeared at the door. "Arya." He rushed forward in 2 or 3 steps and picked her up distressfully. "Are you okay?" And I, the legitimate fiancé, was completely ignored by him. Arya nestled in his arms, sobbing with teary eyes. "Brother Noah. I just came to deliver the invitation and wanted to ask Miss Bella for a favor." She stopped halfway through her words, crying like a flower in the rain, leaving Noah to imagine the worst result. I looked coldly at her little drama, and anger surged in my chest. "You're going too far." Noah suddenly roared at me. "Isn't it just a competition? Is it necessary to treat her like this? Apologize to Arya immediately." I looked at him in disbelief. "Just like this, you don't even ask the reason and just ask me to apologize?" His partiality hurt my heart. "Isn't it you who should apologize?" Noah had a cold face and turned around to leave with Arya in his arms. Before leaving, Arya still didn't forget to turn around and add insult to injury. "Noah, forget it. I don't blame Sister Bella." Looking at their backs gradually disappearing, I stood there, with a sneer curling up at the corners of my mouth. What a melodramatic scene. He really made me feel so disappointed. At this moment, I was completely convinced in my heart. Giving up Noah and choosing to spend the rest of my life with his elder brother was the most correct decision I had ever made in my life. After a while, my phone vibrated. Noah sent a message. "Bella, let's just let this matter pass. I'm not blaming you, but you also know that she is my secretary. How can I not protect her?" Looking at this message, I sneered. He was always like this. First, he would pretend to be considerate and comfort me, and then came the undisguised warning. I had already seen through such clumsy excuses. In the past, such words would have been enough to make my heart ache as if it were stabbed by a knife and keep me awake all night. But now, all that was left was tiredness, and those feelings of unwillingness and resentment had already dissipated completely. Perhaps, I could finally let go. Fortunately, Jason would be back soon. What I was looking forward to the most now was to see the expression on his face when he received the wedding invitation from me and his elder brother. At 8:30 in the evening, Jason's call came on time. "Did you miss me?" I managed to force a smile. "Yeah, your figure has been in my mind all day today." Jason said in a suspicious tone. "Really or not?" I said solemnly. "Every word is true. At least you still have a conscience." There was a hint of pleasure in Jason's voice as he continued. "By the way, I've already asked people to start preparing for the wedding. Do you want to go and check out the venue tomorrow? You don't need to worry about these things." I said softly. "Let's hold the wedding in my hometown. I miss my grandmother." Before I could finish speaking, Noah's voice suddenly came from behind me. "What wedding? How come I didn't know there was going to be a wedding? Who are you talking to on the phone? How could you not discuss such a big thing as wedding preparations with me?" I turned around to face Noah, who looked astonished, and a faint smile curved my lips. "I'm not marrying you. Why should I ask for your opinion? Not with me? Then who are you going to marry?" His expression instantly became complicated, a mixture of surprise, confusion, and uneasiness. Looking at him like this, a sense of satisfaction rose in my heart. There was no need to tell him the truth right now. Let him stay in his own world. I couldn't wait to see what his expression would be like on the wedding day. I smiled charmingly and said, "Just kidding. It's my best friend who's getting married. You know her." Noah relaxed a little but still had doubts. "Someone I know? Who is it?" "It's a secret. You'll know when you go to the wedding." I blinked and added, "I believe you'll be quite surprised." "Really?" Noah said casually, "I won't be surprised no matter who gets married." Then he frowned, and there was dissatisfaction in his voice. "I'm here to remind you that you had such an unpleasant quarrel with Arya today. Don't you think you should apologize?" He paused for a moment and his tone became tough. "If you don't go, I won't attend your best friend's wedding." After saying that, he turned around and walked away with big strides. The straight-backed figure in the suit revealed an overbearing arrogance. In the past, whenever he showed such partiality towards others, I would always feel heartbroken and out of breath. But at this moment, I felt unprecedentedly relaxed, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off my shoulders. Deep in my heart, there was only anticipation for the wedding day, which would be my perfect revenge. Early on Monday morning, Noah woke me up. "Get up quickly. Don't forget that we're going to get the marriage certificate today." Although I had no expectations at all, I still got in the car with him. He was especially excited today and talked non-stop along the way, but I was absent-minded and just replied casually from time to time. "What's the matter?" He glanced sideways at me, and there was a hint of dissatisfaction in his voice. "On such an important day as getting the marriage certificate, you don't seem happy at all." I looked at the scenery flying by outside the window and said softly, "If there's no love between us anymore, what's the point of getting the certificate? If one day you don't love me anymore?" "Impossible." He suddenly gripped the steering wheel tightly, and his voice was low and firm. "Bella, I've always been serious about my feelings for you. It's not on a whim. You have to believe that my feelings have never changed." Listening to his impassioned confession, a bitter feeling welled up in my heart. How ridiculous. He was still deceiving himself. His heart had already been occupied by that female secretary. He just hadn't realized it yet. I sighed softly and didn't want to continue this topic. I bent down to get a bottle of water from the glove compartment of the passenger seat, but unexpectedly found it full of photos. They were all photos of Noah and Arya. My hands trembled slightly as I looked through those photos one by one. There were moments when they smiled at each other, moments of tenderness when he fixed her hair, and moments of intimacy when she nestled beside him. Each photo was like a sharp knife, telling me how ridiculous I was. I suddenly understood that I had always been an outsider. Seeing the photos in my hand, Noah explained in a flustered manner, "It's all Arya's fault. She insisted on taking photos as a souvenir on her birthday, and then she forgot to take these photos away herself." "Really?" I forced a bitter smile and put the photos back gently. "No need to explain. You surely won't be angry about such a trifle, right?" He was driving while speaking in that accustomed tone, as if all this was perfectly normal. I should have seen through the truth of all this long ago. But it seemed that he had never thought about which woman could tolerate her boyfriend being so half-hearted. However, this kind of suffering would soon be over. Let him do whatever he wants. Anyway, I found a better place for myself. The atmosphere in the car was already so heavy that it was suffocating, and those few photos pushed everything to the freezing point. I looked at his angular side face and sneered in my heart. In the past, I thought such a profile was so sexy, but now it just felt glaring. He drove in silence, and I didn't bother to ask anything more. Halfway through the drive, a shrill cell phone ringtone broke the silence. Noah didn't even lift his long and narrow phoenix eyes. His thin lips parted slightly. "Answer the phone for me." I glanced at his phone on the shelf. The word Arya was flashing on the screen. The moment I pressed the answer button, a delicate voice came, "Brother Noah. I feel so uncomfortable. I'm sorry to disturb you and Sister Bella when you're getting the marriage certificate, but I really feel so uncomfortable. I'm shivering all over, and my hands and feet are shaking." Noah's usually cold face instantly tensed up. "Arya, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." Arya's voice was choked with sobs, full of grievance. "It's all my fault for working too hard. I've been staying up late for a whole week to revise the plan. Now I'm so dizzy that I see black dots in front of my eyes and feel like I'm going to pass out at any time. Where are you? I'll take you to the hospital right away." Noah, who was usually calm and composed, was full of anxiety in his voice. I wanted to go, but now I can't even stand steadily. My legs are so weak. I'm so afraid of something happening to me alone." Arya's voice became weaker and weaker, as if she was about to run out of breath at any time. Listening to this clumsy acting, I just found it ridiculous. This woman really had men wrapped around her little finger. Wasn't it just working overtime for a few days? Was there any need to be so exaggerated? But Noah, who was usually such a shrewd man, was completely bewitched by her weakness. He slammed on the brakes, and the car stopped in the middle of the road. He said eagerly, "Honey, don't be afraid. I'll come to pick you up right away." This was exactly what Arya wanted, but she still had to put on a pitiful look. No? Today is your big day with Sister Bella. I really shouldn't. Stop talking. Wait for me. Noah hung up the phone after saying that. He turned his head, and his usually aggressive eyes were now evasive. Bella, you know that Arya has contributed a lot to the company. I can't just watch her get into trouble. I watched this farce coldly, already fully understanding what was going on. The screen of my phone lit up, and as expected, it was a message from Arya. Sister Bella, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Brother Noah to worry about me so much. But don't be angry, okay? When I'm a bit better, I'll let him go back to accompany you. Looking at this insincere apology full of showing off, a sneer curved my lips. This woman really regarded herself as an innocent little flower. I promptly blocked her and was just about to take a shower to calm down when Noah's WeChat message came. I'm sorry, Bella. I didn't want to stand you up either, but Arya really needs me now. She's worked so hard for the work. You must understand, right? Looking at these shameless words, I didn't feel any waves in my heart and just replied casually, of course I understand. After all, she's worked so hard for the company. We can get the marriage certificate at any time. You take good care of her first. He replied immediately, you're finally sensible. I'll give you a surprise when I come back. I sneered and sent a voice message. Coincidentally, I've also prepared a big gift for you. I picked up the suitcase that I had packed long ago and put a gilt-edged invitation on the coffee table. It was the wedding invitation for me and Jason, but only the hotel address was written on the invitation, and the names of the newlyweds hadn't been filled in yet. Sitting on the train back to my hometown, I felt completely relaxed, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off my shoulders. That shackle had been broken and would never trap me again. In the dead of night, Noah called, Where are you? Why aren't you at home so late? His pretended concern was really disgusting. He himself accompanied Arya to work overtime until late at night every day. I said indifferently, I'm back in my hometown. So sudden? There was a hint of reproach in his tone. You didn't even say goodbye. I said sarcastically, aren't you very busy? He was silent for a moment and said, Bella, I know you're angry, but I thought you could understand. I interrupted him directly, of course I understand. After all, she stays up late to work overtime for you, so naturally she should come first. After saying that, I hung up the phone. A minute later, he called again, don't be so headstrong, okay? This is a special situation and I have to deal with it. Headstrong? I sneered and said, really? Then what's the deal with the perfume smell on you? The doctor told me. Noah hesitated. Arya's physical condition isn't very good. She's advised to have a good rest. That means she doesn't need you to take special care of her, right? I asked coldly. Probably so, but at that time Noah's voice showed some hesitation. No need to explain. I interrupted him and suddenly remembered that invitation. By the way, I left the invitation on your desk. It's for my best friend. You know them. They specifically asked me to invite you to the wedding. I deliberately slowed down my tone, wanting to see what his reaction would be. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, and then Noah said indifferently, sorry, I'm really busy with work recently and probably won't be able to spare the time. Whatever. I sneered and hung up the phone directly. Standing by the roadside, I called a ride-hailing car. Just as the car started, Jason called, I'm already on my way back to the country. Do you need me to pick you up? I asked. No need to bother, he chuckled, I know where your home is. His words startled me. I had never told anyone about my family affairs. Even when Noah asked, I just said that my family was running a small business. But Jason seemed to know everything about me. It seems that you've investigated me thoroughly. My tone was a bit cold. Don't misunderstand, there was a hint of amusement in his voice. I just want to know about my future wife. I sneered. I thought to myself, had he been plotting something from the beginning? But none of this mattered to me now. All I wanted now was for Noah to see my wedding with his brother with his own eyes. Back home, my father was handling documents in the study. Seeing me come back, he put down his pen and a gratified smile appeared on his face. I sat opposite him and told him about my plan to marry Jason. After listening, my father just sighed softly, Bella, are you really sure about this? I knew what my father was worried about. Over the years, he had always hoped that I could marry the son of the Chen family. In his eyes, although our family could also be considered a wealthy family in Jingnan, if I married into the Chen family, it would be a powerful alliance between the two families. But I couldn't stand having my life arranged by others since I was a child. So on the night when he brought up this idea, I secretly ran away from home. Over the years, I had been working hard on my own outside. I would rather live in a small single apartment in the community than go back to that magnificent cage. But now that I think about it, how could I not understand my father's good intentions? He just wanted his daughter to find a suitable match and live a carefree life. The next morning, my father specially made breakfast for me. While I was eating, Noah called. Bella, where's the business plan I asked you to help with last time? I've been looking for it for a long time but couldn't find it. There was anxiety in his tone. I sneered, isn't this kind of work supposed to be done by your secretary? What's with your attitude? He was clearly unhappy. You know how important today's meeting is. How could I possibly leave this kind of thing to others? It was true in the past. Whenever he had any important documents, he would always ask me for help, and I would always agree unconditionally. But it's different now. I'm no longer the silly Bella who would give everything for him. Sorry, President Jason, I deliberately used a businesslike tone. I didn't prepare this business plan. I suggest you find a professional to help you. Dad, I'm sleepy. I'll go upstairs to take a nap. After quickly finishing my breakfast, I went upstairs to rest. I had a particularly sweet sleep and wasn't woken up until it got dark by the phone ringing. I'm almost at Jingnan Airport. Are you coming to pick me up? There was a hint of expectation in Jason's voice. Sure, I'll go right away. I agreed without hesitation. Oh, he chuckled, were you always so obedient to Noah in the past? His words were like a knife, stabbing right at my sore spot. Yes, I used to obey Noah's every word, but in return, I got his betrayal, Jason. I gritted my teeth and said, if you want to use your brother to irritate me, then I suggest you take a taxi. Just kidding, his tone was gentle, I just want to see you soon. When I arrived at the airport, I spotted Jason at a glance among the bustling crowd. He was half a head taller than Noah, wearing a dark gray bespoke suit. The perfectly cut pattern highlighted his tall and straight figure. His facial features were even more three-dimensional and deep than in the photos, and his eyes and brows showed the calmness and charm unique to mature men. He stood beside the luggage carousel, with one hand in his trouser pocket and the other holding a mobile phone, looking around from time to time. Every move he made exuded an elegant temperament, which made many passing girls turn their heads frequently. I stood not far away, quietly watching him, watching his slender fingers tapping lightly on the screen of his mobile phone, watching him furrowing his brows slightly as he searched for my figure, and watching him pacing back and forth with a hint of anxiety. This scene reminded me of the first time I had a video call with him. That night, he was sitting in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in his London office, with the brilliant night view of the Thames River behind him. He got straight to the point and said, I know about you and Noah. How about we make a deal? At that time, I just regarded it as an exchange of interests. But now, looking at this elegant and charming man in front of me, my heart couldn't help beating faster. Why didn't you say anything when you saw me? I curved my lips and said deliberately, because I was thinking that my fiancé looks even more handsome and charming than in the photos. Hearing this, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, and then he resumed his nonchalant look. He reached out and gently pinched my cheek. Little girl, you're so good with words. Are you a little bit attracted to me too? I rolled my eyes and didn't respond to his words. However, I had to admit in my heart that this man really knew how to handle things properly. Obviously, he was flirting, but it didn't make people feel the slightest bit frivolous. Instead, it made me feel an irresistible itch in my heart. Slick-tongued. Jason glanced at me happily. I turned around and opened the car door. Get in the car. Jason got into the car. When I started the car, he suddenly asked, it seems that you're still bothered by Noah's affairs? Not anymore. I didn't say anything more and focused on driving. Jason had been working in the business world for many years and was quite tactful. After coming to my home, he soon got along very well with my father. His speech was elegant and his manners were proper, which made my father very satisfied with this prospective son-in-law. I stood aside, watching them chatting happily, with mixed feelings in my heart. The wedding preparations were proceeding in an orderly manner. I deliberately bought the seaside villa that Noah had coveted for a long time as our new home. This news quickly caused a sensation in the circle and made headlines on various financial news. When I was trying on the wedding dress, Jason came over with my mobile phone. Noah's calling you. I gave him a casual look. You answer it. That's not appropriate. Jason handed me the phone and turned around to leave. Looking at his back, I didn't stop him. After answering the phone, Noah immediately complained, Bella, do you know that the seaside villa I had my eye on for a long time has been bought by someone else? It's so annoying. I originally planned to buy it and live there with you. Really? I sneered, Mr. Jason, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. Bella. Noah shouted dissatisfiedly, why have you changed so much after going back to your hometown? I just found it ridiculous and asked rhetorically, is it me who has changed or is it you? There was silence on the other end of the phone. I didn't bother to say more and hung up directly. After I changed my wedding dress, Noah called again, Bella, I've thought a lot about Aria's matter recently. I know that I really didn't think it through and didn't consider your feelings in this matter. Please don't be angry anymore, okay? I'm getting married soon. Why should I still be angry with you? I smiled faintly, don't worry. I won't be angry. Sensing my indifference, his tone became gentle, Bella, I'll come to find you when I'm done with the things at hand and attend your best friend's wedding by the way, okay? Did he want to save this relationship? It was a pity that it was too late. I said to the phone, whether you come or not is your business and has nothing to do with me. After hanging up the phone, I looked at myself in the wedding dress in the mirror and suddenly felt a bit dazed. I had once fantasized about my wedding with Noah, but now those beautiful dreams had been shattered. My father personally arranged a grand wedding. But for me, this wedding didn't bring much joy or a sense of accomplishment. I was wearing a pure white wedding dress, forcing a smile to receive the guests. In my heart, I was just waiting for someone to show up, that's all. Until, in the blessings of everyone, Jason's tall figure approached, ready to put the diamond ring on my finger. The crowd suddenly became restless. A familiar figure pushed through the crowd. Noah's handsome face was full of shock. He looked at me and Jason in disbelief. He asked in a hoarse voice, Bella, the wedding of your best friend you mentioned was actually your own. I, who should have been looking forward to this moment, was surprisingly calm at this time. Yes, he. Noah seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He took a step back, tears streaming down his chiseled cheeks, and his voice trembled. Why? There's no reason. Because I like Jason more. It's as simple as that. I put my slender arm around Jason's muscular arm and showed my attitude in front of him. I didn't think it was too much, because these were all things he had done to me before. A hint of panic and confusion flashed in his eyes. After being dazed for a moment, he strode up to me, with a pleading tone in his voice. Bella, stop joking, okay? You must be joking with me because you're angry. We've had such a long relationship. You won't abandon me, right? I coldly shook off his hand. Mr. Jason, please respect yourself. I already have a husband now. At this time, Jason said in a deep voice, Brother, thank you for coming to my wedding. We haven't seen each other for over a year. Although I miss you too, now you're sister-in-law and I still need to continue the wedding ceremony. With that, Jason took me away and continued with the wedding ceremony. No, you. Noah's face turned pale and he fainted before he could finish speaking. In the dead of night, Jason and I were quite a distance apart. I was sitting on the edge of the bed playing with my mobile phone. The silk nightgown made my skin look as white as snow. His tall figure stood by the window, silently looking outside. Although we were already married, we still seemed very strange to each other. After a long while, Jason's deep voice rang out, was it too much today? Didn't you also want to see this scene? I said without looking back, otherwise, why would you have agreed to marry me? Jason was silent for a moment. Since I was a child, my father abandoned my mother and me and gave all his love to Noah. What I hated was my father. It's all the same. I said calmly, drank up the wine in the glass in one gulp, and the pungent taste of the alcohol made my eyes a bit hot. I thought Jason wouldn't explain anymore, but he strode over and embraced me from behind. His warm breath blew past my ear, and his deep voice carried a bit of persistence. No, it's different. His arms tightened a little. I married you because I saw the same scars on you. Perhaps we both have our own scars, but I believe that two broken souls can also heal each other. He slowly told those long-buried past events and confided many little-known secrets to me. The pain brought by his parents' divorce, the cold treatment from his mother after she remarried. His growth, his confusion. He talked on and on for a long time. The ringtone of the mobile phone suddenly broke the quiet atmosphere. Jason picked up the phone and took a look. It's him. I said firmly, answer it. This time, Jason didn't hesitate. He answered the phone. Noah's choked voice came from the receiver. I'm sorry, Bella. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been close to Arya and shouldn't have hurt your feelings. I was just too afraid of losing you. But now I understand that if you really love someone, you should wish her happiness instead of hurting her with your own obsession. His words were full of regret and self-blame, but I just gently took the phone and put it aside and pulled Jason into my arms. This can probably be regarded as his blessing. It's time for us to rest. The phone was never hung up. He witnessed our wedding night and I also gave him the cruelest reply with my actions. The end.